Hello whisky lovers around the world. Jock here again from Scotch and Folk. I've lost my little thing with the... oh, here it is. scotchandfolk.nl. It's also EU. There's English pages there too for you if you want to have a look at it. Today I've got a special review. It's the first review I'm doing in 2013. It's been a while. It's been a couple of months since my last review, 3 months even. And that's because I've been very, very busy doing tastings a lot. And it's a hard job, but somebody has to do it. But I've got something very special that I'm going to review today. And actually it's going to be about this Octomore, from the Octomore family, the very newest from the Octomore family, and it's the 10 years old, the Octomore 10 years old, the very first Octomore of 10 years old. And I'm going to be comparing it, ladies and gentlemen, whisky lovers, with the Port Charlotte 10 years old. You may say, comparing apples to pears, but why can't you compare an apple to a pear? Now, the difference between these two, they are both 10 years old. This is the PC10, this one, PC10, which is not the newest Port Charlotte 10 years old. The newest Port Charlotte 10 years old, which is going to be on the market all the time, the consistent one is 46% alcohol by volume. This one is a 59.8, sorry, 59.8, I couldn't see it there. 59.8, that's the cask strength Port Charlotte. And this 10 years old Octomore is 50%, exactly 50%. So a kind of tough challenge. It's not a challenge, I'm just comparing them, that's all. There's no challenge here. They're both made by Bruichladdich from the stall of Port Charlotte. The Bruichladdich have decided that everything now which they're making, which has the name Bruichladdich on it, will be light and fruity, or it might be sherried, or have a wine finish, or something exotic, light and fruity, unpeated in other words. And if it's going to be peated at all, then it will be called either Port Charlotte or Octomore. So, and knowing Bruichladdich, they might change the rules next year or something, and maybe we'll find something called Lochendall, which is peated, or whatever. Anyway, I'm going to pour both of them in, and I've got a little, I can see the difference between my two glasses, because both different things on them. This is my malt stock glass, which you get each year. When you go to malt stock, you get one, and I'm going to put the Octomore 10 in here. Here's the Octomore 10 in, and you get it in a nice shiny tin. I opened it first before starting, because it's a job to get the blinking thing open, you know. But they're a great thing to look at, you know. Lovely tins too, lovely, nice and shiny big tin, big tall thing, eh? And the PC10, which is what we all know from the Port Charlotte range, dark and masculine looking little sturdy tin, a wee bit like myself. And here I'll put the Port Charlotte into the left glass, and okay. Now these are peat monsters, little monsters of peat. Now we all know what peat is. It's on the top of the earth. It's about that much deep, and the cutters will cut into it, and it's like young coal basically. It's organic material which has taken anything up to 25,000 years and upwards to grow, and it's rotting vegetation, mosses and grasses and trees and such like. And it's burnable, and it was always used in Scotland in days of old to dry the barley. And the smoke which comes from that peat sticks to the barley, and once they've milled it and made it into whisky, you still get the smell of smoke still inside the whisky. Peat reek, as they would say in Scotland. Now the mighty Octomore has been peated to a level. They've said to the maltsters when they were making this, it's 10 years old, so it was one of the first Octomores ever made. They've now made monsters, which I've even reviewed on this blog before, which go right up to 167 parts per million. Not this baby, no. This is the 10-year-old one of the first Octomores they ever made, and it's 80.5 parts per million. 80.5 parts per million. And as I said already, it's exactly 50% alcohol by volume. 50% alcohol by volume and 80 parts per million. The PC10, that's a cask strength whisky, which comes in straight out of the cask after 10 years at cask strength at a whopping 59.8%. I'm sorry folks, it's hard for me to read this on the bottle, even though the letters are quite high, but I've got a big bright light shining in my face so that I can see better. Am I seeing this right? Yeah, 59.8%. That's what it is. 59.8% is the PC10. Okay. But the PC10 has been peated to a level of only 40 parts per million. So the Octomore is double that, less alcohol, but double the parts per million in peating levels. Now there's all these debates going on of, some people have even said to me before, oh, it's not possible to taste a peating level above 100. I don't know where they get this from. I can certainly taste a high lot of peat in the last Octomore, which won 167 parts per million, the 5.1, the Octomore 5.1. Now this is the Octomore 10. It's very, very limited. I got 2 bottles for Christmas, and I got them given to me, and actually I was going to review this Octomore at a festival where we were going to be opening it, but I decided not to, because I'm going to open it anyway. I'm going to sell one later on, and one is for drinking just now. So I'm going to first of all taste the Port Charlotte 10, the PC10 at cask strength, without any water, no water in it whatsoever. Now in the nose straight away, peat reek, you know, that barbecue, the enormous barbecue, and a very slight sharpness to it. I'll taste it. I can see the emails coming in now. Jock, you should have tasted the Octomore first because it was lower in alcohol. But I've got my own reasons for doing this differently. Surprisingly easy to drink, and I've got a wee thing. They sell them in the Bruichladdich shop as well, a wee jug that you could put water in, and I'll just use one of these pipettes and just put a few drops of water in, and I'll swirl it around the PC10, and I'll do the whole thing again. Now the smoke and the barbecue and the embers are all coming alive now, and I can really smell it nicely. Huh? Very lovely indeed. Very lovely indeed. Now I'm going to do something uncouth. I forgot to get a glass of water, and I can't be bothered ruining this film by going and getting a glass of water, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just squirt some water into my mouth. Excuse me for that, rather uncouth, but I'm from Paisley, that's what we do there. Anyway, getting to the Octomore, oh my, oh, I can feel it lovely, that lovely warning. It's winter just now, it's January and it's quite cold outside, it's blowing quite sharpish, and I'm in my little room here, and this tastes absolutely brilliant, that PC10. But now to the Octomore. You know, I'm a virgin to this Octomore. I've just opened it just now. I just took it, I put it in my bin, the little seal on it. I mean, See how heavy it is in my hand? Well, you can't see how heavy it is, I understand, but believe me, it's just opened. I haven't tasted it yet. Now in the nose, surprisingly, in the nose, surprisingly, it's lighter. It's lighter. You may say that's because of the alcohol, the fumes coming up of because it's got more alcohol in it, 9% more. I don't know. Almost 10%, but it's 59 point something, isn't it? I don't know. I'm still doing it without water, eh? Now, but don't forget, this is double the amount of peating levels than the Port Charlotte. Here we go. Oh, you can really look, guys. I'll show you something. I've got other Octomores up there. I'll get one. I've got this is the 5.1, which I have here. You probably see I reviewed it already, which has got 167 parts per million, and I said even of that it was surprisingly easy to drink, but it was only 5 years old. Now this is at another 5 years time to mature in the wooden oak. Wooden oak. Can you imagine metal oak? Of course it's wooden oak, but in an oak barrel. But my goodness, it's taken a little bit more of the oak. And Mr. McEwen himself, Jim, who is the master distiller of Bruichladdich, he talks of how the oak opens itself to whiskey, and he says, come in, I want to get to know you," he says. I'm quoting Jim McEwen here. And then the oak releases the spirit back into the barrel again, and it gives part of itself to it. I can tell you it's given a lot to itself here, because the old Octomores, as we know them, which are, Bruichladdich make them because they can, and because peat lovers just enjoy having a very heavily peated dram. This one, it is a cracker. Now I still haven't put water in it, but lovers of whiskey, you would not believe how easy this is to drink. You just would not believe it. It's creamy. It's got the taste of vanilla in it. It's got oak sugar as we know it. It is absolutely a delight of a whiskey. Now I'm going to put water into it. Now, I'm doing that a little bit more sophisticated. The water into the Octomore. Oh, it's just become so much more sweeter in the smell. A sweetness to it, along with the peat reek and the barbecue that we are used to, and these smoking embers that we're used to with heavily peated whiskey. On top of that, I swilled it around my mouth a bit and then give it a bit of air. Oh, when I give it air, you can really taste the difference. It is so sweet, and the peat is the underlying thing. If you could compare this whiskey to a stage, you know, if you were looking at a theatre or a play or something like that, if you could compare it to a stage, central stage, the dominant character in the central stage is the peat, absolutely smoking and burning away there and telling you, here I am, I'm peat, I'm here, I'm present, I am here. But there are also other little characters on the side, which if you're watching from the balcony and you look down at the stage, they're dancing, and you can't help but take your eyes off of that central character because they're drawing your attention away. And that's what happens here. At the sidelines of this stage, of this Octomore, is little dancing characters of a sweetness, of vanilla, almost coconut-like. Now, maybe some of you won't agree who know this whiskey, but it's I can't help but tasting a coconut-like thing. There's a freshness and a zesty lemony taste to it. Octomore, 10 years old. How many bottles of it are there in the whole world? I don't know. I think, oh, it's probably in here somewhere. I can't read it in this light, I'm afraid. You'll probably be able to look it up onto the internet. The 10-year-old Octomore, the first one, and for me, the privilege to be able to review it. I'll go back to the PC10 now. Now, surprisingly, I'm going to put more water into it. I'll just pour a bit of water in it. Oh, I can hear you all saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, well, each to their own, eh? Each to their own. Now, oh, it's taming the PC10. It was the PC10 I put the water in, eh? For your information, not the Octomore. This is the PC10 again. The Cask Strength PC10. Tamed it down with a bit of water. Can I taste less peat? Yes, I can. I can taste less peat now that I've watered it down a bit, probably to about the same strength as the other, as the Octomore. A lot. It's almost. It is a heavily peated. This is a heavily peated whiskey. This PC10, a heavily peated whiskey. But with after tasting the Octomore, it almost tastes like a very lightly peated whiskey. An old-fashioned type of Scotch whiskey, which Bruichladdich make, and oh, it's adorable actually, lovely. I like this PC10. But for the peatheads among you, and I'm a bit of a peathead sometimes, oh, even the smell of it, it's just releasing itself all the time. The Glencairn glass, by the way, just lends itself for this kind of stuff. As it swells around the glass, I'm not going to put that much water into the Octomore as I did with the PC10. As it swells around the glass, it's releasing its vapours, and that central dominant character, like in a play, or like, you know, like if you're watching the Rolling Stones and you see Mick Jagger dancing about, you can't help but look, you know, you see him dancing about and you admire his the way that he can dance, especially at his age. It's wonderful to look at. And then Keith Richards and Ronnie Wood come on, and both sides of him, and they start playing their riffs, and you turn your eyes away from Jagger and you look at Ronnie Wood with a slide guitar, and then you look at Keith Richards that's doing these solos and riffs, and you can't help but admire the guys. And you look at the back and you see Charlie Watts and the big bass player who's playing at the bass line and carrying it all along. And the whole show together just makes the Rolling Stones who they are. If I could compare that with this Octomore, funny comparison, but it's kind of like rock and roll. It's not whiskey for the faint-hearted, Octomore. It is so heavily peated, but I can assure you, just like the Rolling Stones can make very, very moving and touching and emotional songs like Angie, this mighty Octomore, heavily peated rock and roll whiskey, can really tumble over the tongue in a nice and pleasing fashion. So, I've got nobody behind the camera. I'm going to have to walk over and switch it off myself. So anyway, whiskey lovers, from me, Jock, from Scotch and Folk, from my renewed room, by the way, or maybe one day I'll show it to you. You'll be able to see the other side of the lens and what's to the left of me here. But my wife, my dear wife, God bless her, she got together with me just yesterday and we took all my whiskey bottles down and we dusted it all and cleaned it all up, and I rearranged them all into their own little things, and where I'm looking at just now is all Bruichladdich all in one big cabinet from top to bottom, and left and right of it I've got other stuff. But anyway, that's got nothing to do with this. It's just such a pleasure to be here and sit in this room and taste this Octomore 10. I'm going to switch you off now and I'm going to have another actually, and I'll give that PC10 to my wife because she likes it actually. I do too, but after having this Octomore 10, I mean, goodness me, you wouldn't want anything else. This is the Rolling Stones. This is the Rolling Stone. finished it and having another. Now I always encourage drinking within measure. I always encourage responsible drinking. But I'm not going anywhere tonight, and I haven't had anything to drink for a couple of days, and I'm going to enjoy a second, just have another, just nice. Enjoy yourself this year, and if you happen to come across one, very, very limited, the Octomore 10 years old, there's only a few thousand bottles. I say few because I don't actually know the number. You'll be able to look it up on the internet. Quite expensive, the stuff. Here in Holland, where I live, they retail at about 225, 230, maybe 240 euros a bottle. As I said, I got 2 bottles for Christmas because I was a good boy this year, last year. And anyway, thank you very much for watching. And if you manage to get yourself one of these, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. And if you know somebody that's really into it, and you find one on a shelf somewhere which is still unsold, which might be unlikely, buy it for that special person. Octomore, 10 years old, beautiful, so easy to drink, lovely, Rolling Stones, nice stuff. Bye bye, see you next time.